I'm the big man, attorney Joey Franks with Big Man Law here in Jackson, Mississippi. And we actually have two videos for you today with Judge Fleisher, one of my favorite ones out of Texas. And the first one is it's a special case. Calls the police on himself. Take a look.
You Matthew Ray Gomez? Mr. Gomez, you're charged with resisting arrest. You're facing up to a year in jail and or a $4,000 fine. We're going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you. If you cannot afford a lawyer will be appointed to represent you, sir. Okay.
2024 officers were dispatched to see a complainant on a call located in Houston, Texas. The call slip stated that the caller was rambling and refused to answer questions. The caller advised that he had warrants for arrest and wanted police to pick him up before he does something. The caller stated that he will be waiting outside for police.
So he called the cops on himself?
The caller was irate and upset. The caller was making threats towards police, stating that they better be strong because he was going to fight and not to dispatch any female officers. The officers arrived at the scene and immediately noticed the defendant coming out of his house in an aggressive manner. The defendant took off his shirt and hat and was coming towards the officers quickly and was trying to get the officers to physically fight him. The defendant repeatedly stated that he wanted the officers to fight him. Officers immediately drew their tasers and began giving the defendant verbal commands. The defendant repeatedly refused to comply with the verbal commands and continued to tell the officers to put their tasers away so they could fight him. One of the officers took the defendant to the ground by tackling him and used force to put the defendant's hands behind his back. The defendant was physically resisting and yelling the entire time. The officer then got the defendant into handcuffs and moved him to the side of the patrol vehicle. The officer's partner held the defendant against the patrol vehicle while the officer conducted a search. The defendant was still refusing to comply with verbal commands and was physically resisting. The officer then assisted the defendant into the patrol vehicle using a minimal amount of force. The defendant was kicking the officer's leg and still refusing to comply.
I don't understand. He calls the cops on himself and then he resists. I mean, was he under the influence of something?
I don't see that in the...
Mr. Gomez, if I go drug test you right now, what are you going to test positive for?
Nothing.
I'm sending you now for a drug test. How old are you, son?
Drank alcohol last night.
How old are you? I'm sending you for a drug test and I want you to come back and then we'll talk about getting a lawyer. Do not take off. Otherwise, I will issue a warrant. You will not get any more PR bonds. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Go take a drug test. We'll have you come back and then we'll talk deeper. All right? Okay. Please, let's have him.
Yeah, I'll sign
Yeah.
All right, so this guy does one of the least brilliant things I've ever seen done. He calls the cops on himself. Kind of impressive. I've represented people that have done that before. It makes no sense. Never had anybody that did this and then wanted to pick a fight with the police. That's a first. Also, he had to make sure that the misogynist in him came out because he doesn't want any female cops showing up. So he gets tackled and arrested and he tells the judge, I don't have anything in my system, and judge sends him off for a test. He does say, oh, by the way, I drank last night, so that could be it. But we don't see a whole lot past that on this one, unfortunately. Don't call the police on yourself. Calling the police on yourself is a very, very bad idea. If you think otherwise, put it in the comments, and I would like to see how out of control they get, because that makes no sense to call the police on yourself. Which has us rolling into our second video where this guy didn't call the police on himself. That's all I'm going to tell you before you can watch it.
Good morning, Mr. Galvan. You're Benito Galvan?
Yes, sir.
Sir, you're charged with failure to stop and give information, which is leaving the scene of an accident without exchanging information. We are going to do probable cause. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can or will be used against you. You have the right to have an attorney present. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to you, sir.
On August 26, 2024, in Harris County, Texas, officers were dispatched to the scene of a Gates Wheeler truck driving away from an accident after causing damage to the complainant's personal vehicle. Upon arrival to the scene, officers took the statement of the complainant, the defendant, and witnesses. Stated that he and his grandfather, who's a witness, were traveling eastbound on I-10 when the defendant's vehicle, a white truck tractor, hit a bridge and knocked debris into the roadway. The complainant stated that the debris was knocked into his moving lane of traffic, and he subsequently hit the debris, causing damage to his vehicle. The complainant stated after hitting the debris, a large car suspension spring became lodged under his vehicle. The defendant stated after removing the debris from underneath his vehicle, he then attempted to catch up to the defendant and alert him that his load was falling off and that it was hitting cars. The defendant saw the attempts to be flagged down and ignored them. The complainant stated that the defendant then hit a second bridge and more debris was knocked off of the load. The complainant stated that the defendant attempted to evade the complainant by changing his route. The complainant provided a video recording from his cellular device documenting the second bridge strike and the generally unsafe disposition of the defendant's load. The complainant stated that he followed the defendant for about 7 miles. The defendant eventually pulled over after the complainant and the witness waved their phones at him, pointing to pictures. Upon arrival to the scene, the officers observed the defendant's vehicle and it had obvious piles of debris over the rim of the dumpster trailer.
So, Mr. Galvan, I'm going to find that there's probable cause to go forward with the case. Do you have a CDL? Okay. Any conditions that you think are appropriate?
No, that's not Judge. I read it, he's eligible.
Okay. Mr. Galvan, do not pick up any new cases, otherwise I will revoke the bond in this case. I'm not going to put any conditions on you now, but just be careful. Be good out there on the road, especially if you're behind an 18-wheeler. I mean, how large is that vehicle, huh?
I try my best to do that, sir.
Just don't say anything. Just be careful. You know, you drive something that has what? All right. We're going to reset your case to give you time to hire a lawyer. So I'm going to have you go to Victoria, sign a reset, and then we'll get you out of here, sir. When you come back, please have a lawyer. Okay? Please, sir.
All right, apparently this guy's got an 18-wheeler and debris is falling off of it. A suspension spring gets caught under somebody's car and they follow him videoing it and they run over some more stuff and tag, he's it, he pulls over, and it's not a particularly heinous crime, but nobody likes the idea of anything falling off an 18-wheeler and hitting them. Everybody hates the idea of a rock, much less an entire suspension spring coming at you at 60 miles an hour. I think they said they were on I-10. That's rough. That's all there is to it. I don't know exactly what the charge would be there. Under Mississippi, it'd fall under our DOT, Mississippi Department of Transportation. One of their officers would most likely be the one that issued the citation on that. It's possible that MHP or local police would do it, but they would almost certainly fall under our MDOT rules and violations. As far as maintaining the 18-wheeler and the load and things like that, they're the guys that manage the weigh stations. So this guy, he's got some problems on his hands. It's not as bad as some of them we see on this channel, but it is not to be ignored, and the judge tells him, have a nice day, don't get in any more trouble, we've got probable cause to move forward with your case. So that's going to be interesting to see if he pops back up in circulation. I hope you've enjoyed these two videos. Hope you have a great day, and I will catch y'all on the next video.